Marvel Tokon had its open beta recently, and if you heard anything about it, you might have heard that it has a very terrible PC port. However, there's a lot of misinformation flying around, and I wanted to address that misinformation, maybe provide some new information, as well as explain why I might not be making content about this game in the future, depending on how things shake out. I will make a few predictions that I'm pretty confident on, but if I turn out to be wrong, I will unlist this video. Hold me to that. So to give a quick rundown, the Marvel Tokon beta ran horribly on certain setups. There were reports of it running perfectly fine on setups that were actually below the minimum requirements listed on the Steam page, while also running horribly on PCs that were above minimum or even recommended specs in some cases. Speaking for myself, my GPU is above minimum requirements and my CPU is above recommended requirements, and yet the thing that was bottlenecking was my CPU, capping out at 100% and 85 degrees Celsius. The game ran really slowly, so I just ended up not being able to play. There are multitudes of fixes that have been suggested, as well as just buying a better computer or whatever, but the truth is that no matter what, even people with really good components were having these types of performance issues, seemingly not because the game is actually that demanding, but because some other thing in the game is conflicting with people's systems. What thing might I be referring to? I'm so glad you asked. Right now, the main suspects are easy anti-cheat as well as PlayStation SDKs that run alongside the game. Overall, the beta had a very strong level of encryption, which is why you don't see anybody cracking the beta yet. And this is precisely why it is my belief that despite addressing these concerns, they're actually not going to be fixed, at least on day one of the game coming out. This issue doesn't have anything to do with graphical fidelity or even, because it's affecting CPUs primarily, with the CPUs having to calculate a lot of complex things or whatever. We're not dealing with liquid simulation here or some kind of like complex physics equations. One of the PlayStation sub-processes or the anti-cheat or some other aspect of how the game is built is simply conflicting with certain systems. Finding out why that is the case is very complicated because there's a lot of different PC systems out there. It's a lot harder to develop for computers than it is to develop for PlayStation. I simply don't think that a week is enough time. Not to mention a broader issue. Sony. Sony is the publisher of this game, and likely the anti-cheat measures and PlayStation SDKs and Sony subservices and all of that encryption and everything of that sort is mandated by Sony executives. It's possible that all of these things simply conflict with some people's PCs for whatever reason, and there's not really an easy fix aside from maybe going into your Windows settings, editing registry, and just messing with your specific system. You know, it's just work that you're gonna have to do. For those things to be removed, executives at Sony have to agree to it, and I just don't think that they will because clearly they don't really care about consumers that much. I mean, is it even worth mentioning at this point that the game is not available in over 100 countries because of a PSN requirement? I don't think that's changing either. Again, this will be unlisted if I'm proven wrong. And on top of the CPU issues, there were other issues like controller compatibility and some netplay things, you know, spiking rollback, things like that are a lot more mundane and fixable for a beta like this. Oh yeah, let me mention, by the way, if you played the Marvel Tokon beta, there is a folder on your computer right now in your C drive that is under Sony Entertainment Incorporated that contains the PlayStation SDKs. It weighs a total of 2 gigabytes and it does not get removed if you delete or uninstall the Marvel Tokon beta. Just to let y'all know. I fully believe that they will keep working on the game and trying to improve it as much as they can, but the issue is that these types of conflicts will just inevitably happen because of the things that are attached to the game, that are probably mandated not by the developers themselves, but by Sony. So even if they manage to make the game function okay on more systems, it's still gonna eat up additional CPU, even if it, you know, doesn't spike it to 100%. And it is still likely to be incompatible with a lot of machines, which, to clarify, some people say that this high CPU usage is only because of the shader pre-warming, right? Before you get into the game, the shaders have to warm up, which in and of itself feels kind of antiquated to me. It's funny that it's a AAA game coming out in the year of our Lord 2026, and we have to wait for the computer to warm up like it's the 80s. But sure, I've played these games before, I've booted up Marvel Rivals, I get it. But a lot of people that have had complaints have high CPU usage even if they do shader warm up, even if they disable everything else, the game simply maxes out their CPU. There is a bug, some kind of unintended conflict with the system. That's it. And look, while I know some things about programming and IT, I am by no means an expert, so if you have an opinion about this that can provide a little bit more expertise than mine, I am always down to hear that kind of stuff, so please feel free to share it. So unless Marvel Tokon fixes those issues for release or at a later date, hopefully, or unless I make enough money from YouTube and Twitch to buy a new computer in this economy, I will likely stick to making Guilty Gear Strive content and Avatar Legends content, which is a game that is twice as cheap and runs on like everything. Plus, the issues that it has are a lot more fixable, so the silver lining is that while I wasn't able to enjoy Marvel Tokon beta, I actually discovered that Avatar is a really good game. So there's always games around, and to those that managed to get their hands on Marvel Tokon, I hope you all enjoyed it. It just sucks that the two fighting games that are coming out sort of back to back are both hindered so heavily by their publishers. One because it got rushed to release so early, and the other is because the publisher is just forcing all of this anti-consumer bloatware onto the program. It's unfortunate, but we'll stay tuned to see how things develop. Who knows, I might be back for its release. By the way, I promise to make more gameplay videos. I haven't made one in a minute, but I have an Avatar guide coming out, so see y'all then. Bye-bye.